In 2026, being poor in Canada rarely looks the way you picture it. There's no cardboard sign, no empty fridge, no obvious line you've crossed. More often, it's completely invisible. It's the quiet arithmetic running in the back of your mind while you smile through a coffee you can't really afford. Because in one of the richest nations on earth, poverty isn't only about what you don't have. It's about the mental tax you pay every single day, the constant, exhausting calculation of survival that the comfortable never even notice. It follows you into the grocery store, into your inbox, into your car, and into your friendships. It's a trap. And the cruelest part is how normal it feels from the inside. So here are 5 signs you might be caught in it, even if, on paper, you look like you're doing just fine. Sign 1. The grocery math. The first sign is that grocery shopping stopped being shopping. It became surviving. You don't wander the aisles anymore. You calculate them. You price match flyer apps on your commute to shave 5 cents off a bag of carrots. You know the exact hour. The yellow clearance stickers go out at your local Loblaws or Sobeys, and when you find one on a pack of chicken, it doesn't feel like a discount. It feels like winning a small lottery, and the numbers explain exactly why. According to Canada's Food Price Report, the average family of 4 is projected to spend just over $17,572 on food in 2026, nearly $1,000 more than the year before. Overall prices are climbing another 4 to 6%, and by the start of the year, grocery inflation had spiked to 7.3% compared to the same month a year earlier. Per person, the average Canadian is now spending between $310 and $320 a month just on food, which sits roughly 27% higher than it did only 5 years ago. The wealthy pay that very same bill, without noticing it, leave their account. But if every single trip to the checkout demands strategy, rationing, and a quiet prayer that your card goes through, you are not overreacting. You are paying a mental tax, one that silently drains the energy you need for everything else in your life. Sign 2. Precarious shelter. The second sign lives in your chest every time your landlord's name lights up your phone. In cities like the GTA and Vancouver, an entire generation of renters now lives with a specific, low-grade dread. The fear of the N12. That's the notice a landlord uses to reclaim a unit for personal use. Right beside it sits its cousin, the renoviction, the suddenly urgent renovation that conveniently requires you to pack up and leave. Here's why that fear is so paralyzing. You are not actually afraid of moving. You are afraid of the market. Because you know, with mathematical certainty, that you could never afford today's rents on a brand new lease anywhere else in the city. The apartment you're sitting in right now is the only thing standing between you and a number you simply cannot reach. That is what it means to be shelter poor. It isn't just that housing is expensive. It's that your entire stability, your sleep, your sense of home, your kids' school, your commute, is owned and controlled by someone else. One signature on one form, and the floor drops out from under you. And when your security depends entirely on another person's decision, you don't really have security at all. You're just renting it, month to month, hoping the notice never comes. Sign 3. The $200 cliff. The third sign is the one that keeps people staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning. It's the cliff. Ask yourself one honest question. If your furnace died tonight, or a molar cracked and demanded an emergency root canal, would that be an inconvenience? Or would it be a catastrophe? For millions of Canadians, it's a catastrophe. According to the MNP Consumer Debt Index, roughly 4 in 10 Canadians are now just $200 or less away from being unable to pay their bills and debt each month. And not long ago, that figure sat closer to half the entire country. The average Canadian is left with only about $907 at the end of the month once the bills are paid, and fewer than half have even a modest emergency cushion sitting behind them. Economists have a quiet name for what's missing here. They call it financial margin, the gap between you and disaster. And the true definition of poverty in 2026 isn't a low income, it's the absence of that margin. Because when you have no cushion, every emergency instantly becomes debt. The broken furnace goes onto a credit card at 19%. The dental bill becomes a HELOC or a line of credit. And that's how the trap tightens. The people with the least room to spare are forced to borrow at the highest possible cost, paying a permanent premium simply for the crime of being broke. Sign 4. Transformation fragility. The fourth sign hums quietly under the hood of your car. Canada is enormous. For most people, living outside a handful of dense downtown cores, a vehicle isn't a luxury. It's the only way to reach a job, a clinic, a daycare, a grocery store, which means your entire livelihood can hang on a single light on your dashboard. If you have ever felt your stomach drop at the sight of a check engine light, not because of the car itself, but because you already know, deep down, that you cannot afford whatever it's about to cost you, then you understand transit poverty. You might be driving a vehicle you're still slowly paying off on an 84 or even 96-month loan. A car that's worth less than you still owe on it. A car you can't afford to fix and can't afford to replace. One failed transmission, and the chain reaction begins. No car, no commute, no job. For the comfortable, a repair bill is simply an annoying afternoon. For you, it is an existential threat to your income. And that isn't carelessness or bad planning. That is fragility, being one mechanical failure away from losing everything you've built through no fault of your own. Sign 5. The comparison isolation. The fifth sign is the loneliest of them all, because nobody ever sees it happen. It's the birthday dinner you quietly skip, the office coffee run you wave off with a smile, the colleague's baby shower pitch-in you pretend not to notice, because that $20 is already spoken for in a budget that has absolutely no slack left in it. Every casual, no thanks, I'm good, is really just a disguised I can't. And so, slowly, you begin to withdraw. Not because you've stopped caring about the people around you, but because simply participating in normal life now carries a price you cannot pay. This is social poverty, and it is the hidden wound of the Canadian middle class. It never shows up on a bank statement. It shows up as isolation, as quiet shame, as the widening distance between you and the life everyone just assumes you're living. And because you are surrounded by people who seem to afford all of it so effortlessly, you slowly conclude that the problem must be you. It almost never is. So take a step back and look at the whole board. Canada has one of the highest standards of living and one of the largest economies on the entire planet. And yet Canadian households now carry some of the heaviest debt in the whole G7. StatCan reports that for every single dollar of disposable income, households owe roughly $1.77. A debt-to-income ratio of about 177%, piled on top of a mountain of household debt that has now topped $3.2 trillion. And here's the uncomfortable truth hiding inside that number. Many of the people who look wealthy simply aren't. They are just running a higher-level version of the exact same trap. A bigger house, a bigger truck, a bigger line of credit, and the very same $200 of breathing room at the end of the month. The mortgage is larger, the lifestyle is louder, but the margin is every bit as thin. Because real wealth was never about the size of your car or the square footage of your home. Real wealth is silence. The absence of that 3 a.m. arithmetic. It is options. It's the freedom to say yes without first checking your account, and to survive a bad month without reaching for borrowed money. So if you recognized yourself somewhere in these 5 signs, hear this part clearly. Poverty in 2026 is not a character flaw. It is not laziness, and it is not a moral failure on your part. More often than not, it is simply a mathematical trap, a set of forces far, far larger than any one person's willpower could ever overcome alone. But a trap can be mapped, and the first step out of it is never shame. It's learning to see the leaks clearly, the mental tax, the missing margin, the fragile links in your chain, and then, dollar by dollar, beginning to rebuild the gap between merely surviving and actually living. You are not behind because you're broken. You're behind because the ground shifted underneath you. And the very moment you can finally see the trap for what it truly is, that is the exact moment you can start climbing your way out of it. If you learned something, like and hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.